Hello, everyone. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to leave a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I'd also love to know what kind of stories you'd like to hear next. Only a small percentage of the people who watch these videos are actually subscribed, so if you're enjoying the content, consider subscribing to the channel. And if you'd like to discover even more stories from my team, check out the Patreon link in the video description. Now, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story. I still remember that Friday afternoon as clearly as though it had happened yesterday. It was the final day of college before the summer holidays, and after months of assignments, exams, and early mornings, I was finally heading home with several weeks of freedom ahead of me. When I arrived at Mom's house, the first thing I noticed was a car sitting in the driveway. It wasn't one I recognized, and for a moment I wondered who could have arrived without me knowing. I usually enter the house through the rear door, so I walked around to the back and stepped inside. "Mom," I called. "I'm in the kitchen, dear," she answered. I walked in and immediately asked about the unfamiliar car. "Mom, there's a car parked outside that I don't recognize. Do you know whose it is?" "Oh, yes," she replied casually. "It belongs to your Aunt Hilda. She arrived with your cousin Yvonne. They're both in the lounge, and they'll be staying here tonight." She paused for a moment before continuing. "Actually, your aunt wanted to know whether you'd like to travel back with them tomorrow. You could stay at their place for a week, or even 2 if you wanted. You've just finished college, so it might be a nice way to spend part of your summer." That immediately caught my attention. "I'd love that," I said. "Well, you'd better go and tell them yourself. They'll want to know your answer." I headed into the lounge, where I found Aunt Hilda comfortably watching television while Yvonne sat nearby, flipping through a magazine. After the usual greetings and catching up, I told them that I would be more than happy to go back with them the following day. "That's wonderful," Aunt Hilda said. "Yvonne will be pleased to have some company." Just then, Mom called from the kitchen. "Dinner's ready. Come and wash your hands." We gathered around the table and spent the evening talking about college, summer plans, family news, and all the little things we hadn't had a chance to discuss recently. After dinner, Mom announced that she and Aunt Hilda were planning to go out for a few hours. "We're going to bingo," she explained. "Would either of you like to come along?" "Not tonight, Mom," I replied. "I think I'd rather have a shower, pack a few things, and relax. There's also a program on television I've been wanting to watch." Mom turned toward Yvonne. "What about you?" "Thanks, Aunt Marion, but I think I'll just take a bath and relax too, if that's all right." "Of course, dear," Mom replied. Aunt Hilda agreed, and before long, the two of them were ready to leave. The front door closed behind them, and their car soon disappeared down the driveway. I settled in front of the television while Yvonne headed upstairs. "Are you going to shower or have a bath?" she asked before disappearing. "I'll go later," I answered. "I want to watch this first." "Okay," she replied. A little while later, I heard Yvonne moving around upstairs. Eventually, she called down from the bathroom. "The bathroom's free now." "Thanks," I shouted back. I waited a little longer before finally deciding it was time to get ready for bed. I headed upstairs and entered the bathroom. As I prepared to freshen up, Yvonne called from nearby. "Oh, could you do me a favor? I forgot to pull the plug after my bath." "No problem," I called back. I drained the bath and cleaned up after myself before heading toward Mom's bedroom, where I had left some of my things. I found Yvonne there wearing a pink toweling bathrobe. She was standing beside Mom's vanity case and concentrating on something in the mirror. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm fixing my eyebrows," she replied. She looked at me through the mirror and smiled. "Come on, sit down for a while." "I probably shouldn't," I said. "I'm not exactly dressed properly." Yvonne laughed. "Neither am I. I'm just getting ready." I hesitated for a moment before pulling up a chair and sitting nearby. Yvonne continued working on her eyebrows, carefully checking her reflection as she went. "What are you doing with that?" I asked when she picked up a small block of ice. "I use it before plucking my eyebrows. It makes the area feel less sensitive." She gently pressed the ice against her eyebrow for a moment before continuing. "That sounds like a lot of work," I said. "Wouldn't shaving them be quicker?" She immediately shook her head. "No, I don't want to shave them. If I pluck them, they take longer to grow back, and I can shape them properly." I watched her carefully working on one eyebrow. I don't think I'd have the patience for that, I admitted. Yvonne looked at me and smiled. You might be surprised. Then, almost as though a new idea had suddenly occurred to her, she studied my face for a few seconds. Actually, she said slowly, I have an idea. What kind of idea? She turned toward me with a mischievous smile. How about I give you a little makeover? A makeover? Yes. Just for fun. We could see what you'd look like with a completely different style. I laughed nervously. Yvonne, I think you're getting carried away. I'm serious, she replied. You've got fairly long hair already, and with the right hairstyle, some simple makeup, and different clothes, you could look completely different. I glanced at myself in the mirror. Until that moment, I had never really considered what I might look like with a feminine appearance. The idea sounded strange, but at the same time, there was something strangely intriguing about it. Yvonne noticed my expression. So, she asked, are you willing to let me experiment? I didn't answer immediately. I simply stared at my reflection, wondering where this unexpected conversation might lead. What had started as an ordinary summer evening was suddenly beginning to feel like the beginning of something I never could have predicted. You already have enough for me to work with, Yvonne said, studying my face with an amused smile. Your eyelashes are naturally long, your skin is incredibly smooth, and honestly, it wouldn't take much to give you a completely different look. I laughed nervously, unsure whether she was joking or genuinely serious. Before I could respond, she added, Come on, let's start with your eyebrows. She stood up, took my hand, and began leading me toward the bathroom. Yvonne, maybe we shouldn't, I protested, suddenly feeling much less confident about the whole idea. Oh, don't be so hesitant, she replied. You spend your whole life worrying about what other people might think. Just give yourself one afternoon where you stop overthinking everything. She picked up her razor and looked at me. Now hold still. I stared at her uncertainly, but before I could change my mind, she carefully removed the hair from my eyebrows. A few quick passes were all it took. When she finished, she stepped back and examined her work. There, she said proudly. She turned me toward the mirror. I froze. Oh my goodness, I whispered. My reflection looked completely unfamiliar. What have you done? They're going to take forever to grow back. What am I supposed to tell people if they ask why I shaved my eyebrows? Yvonne burst out laughing. Relax. I'm not going to leave you looking like that. I can draw them back in with an eyebrow pencil. Yvonne, I'm not a girl, I reminded her. Not yet, she replied with a playful grin. Give me a little while, and by the time your mom and my mom come home, you might look surprisingly convincing. That was when the makeover became much more elaborate than I had expected. Yvonne opened her wardrobe and started selecting things for me. She chose an outfit that matched the feminine style she had in mind, and then began working on my hair. She carefully arranged it, adjusted the shape, and kept stepping back to inspect the result. Then came the makeup. At first, I thought she would simply add a little powder and perhaps some light color, but Yvonne had other plans. She patiently worked through each part of the makeover, explaining what she was doing while I watched the transformation gradually take shape in the mirror. I couldn't believe I was actually sitting there allowing her to do all of this. How did I let this happen? I muttered to myself. Yvonne heard me. You're enjoying this more than you want to admit, she teased. I am absolutely not, I replied, although my voice lacked confidence. Once she was satisfied with my hair and makeup, she brought out an outfit she thought would suit me. She helped me change into it and then added a few simple accessories to complete the appearance. Finally, she found a pair of her heels. I think these will fit you. She checked them carefully before handing them over. To my surprise, they fit. I stood up cautiously while Yvonne watched. Perfect, she said. She placed her hands lightly on my shoulders and guided me toward the full-length mirror. Now look. I slowly raised my eyes. For several seconds, I couldn't say anything. The person looking back at me seemed completely different from the person who had walked into the bathroom earlier that evening. Oh no, I finally whispered. Yvonne, I actually look like a girl. She smiled proudly. That was the whole idea. I continued staring at myself, completely stunned by how convincing the transformation appeared. So, she asked, How does it feel? I took a deep breath. I don't even know what to think. I feel completely out of place. Yvonne laughed softly. You just need time to get used to seeing yourself differently. I need to sit down and think about this, I said. She pointed toward the chair. Then sit carefully. And remember, you're wearing a dress now. I lowered myself into the chair, still trying to process what had happened. Yvonne, I really need to take all of this off. In a little while, she answered calmly. There's no rush. Then she reached for her phone. What are you doing? I'm taking a couple of pictures. No, Yvonne. Please don't. She laughed. Just a few. They're only for us. Besides, imagine showing our moms the pictures and asking whether they recognize the person in them. I shook my head. You're impossible. She continued smiling as she took a couple of harmless photos. Afterward, I asked her to help me change back and remove the makeup. Not yet, she said. Stay like this for a little longer. I think you look really good. I looked at her uncertainly. You actually like this? I do, she admitted. And, honestly, I think you're starting to like it too. Before I could answer, we suddenly heard the sound of a car outside. My stomach dropped. The front door opened. Then I heard familiar voices. Mom and Aunt Hilda were home. Oh gosh. I whispered. Yvonne, you have to help me get changed. I reached behind myself, trying to find the zipper, but I couldn't manage it. Please hurry. Yvonne remained surprisingly calm. It's all right. How can you say that? I asked nervously. She looked at me with a knowing smile. Because they already know. I stared at her. What do you mean they already know? She held up her phone. I sent 2 of the pictures to your mom and my mom. My eyes widened. You did what? I thought they would find it funny. Yvonne, tell me you're joking? She shook her head. Nope. I couldn't believe it. Somehow, during one ordinary evening at home, I had gone from watching television and planning a quiet summer to standing in front of a mirror wearing an entirely different look, with my family already aware of what had happened. I was still trying to think of what I could possibly say when Mom's voice suddenly echoed from downstairs. Are you 2 girls coming down for supper? I looked at Yvonne. She looked at me. Neither of us said a word for several seconds. Then Yvonne smiled. Well, she whispered, I suppose we'd better go downstairs. I swallowed nervously. The evening had started as an ordinary family visit. Now I had absolutely no idea what was waiting for me at the dinner table.